Hey, Michelle, welcome to the call. How are you?
How are you, Jeff? I'm good.
I'm fantastic. So for everybody that doesn't know who you are or anything like that, because everybody's like, "Who's Michelle?" Share with us who you are. Outside of being an entrepreneur and branding guru. Share share with us who you are, your story, your journey, what got you to where you are now, and
All
we'll go
right.
from there.
Yeah, we'll go from there. Okay, tell me when I need to stop talking because as soon as I
Bring
get
it. Bring it.
started, who am I? All right. So, well, apart from that, my name is Michelle, which is something that we see as our identity, most of it. I'm a dreamer, first and foremost. I'm a dreamer. I'm a storyteller. I'm
Mhm.
crazy about stories, and I'm deeply in love with words. And that's something that I've been in love with words ever since I could talk, basically.
Nice.
So as a young girl, I would listen first, and then at some point, I think I was 2.5. My mom was completely flabbergasted when I just produced a full sentence perfectly, and I haven't stopped talking since, basically. And she told me that I would be telling stories to my stuffed animals whenever I couldn't sleep. So for some reason, I've been a storytelling all my life.
Nice.
And yeah, I had a deep fascination for the written word for a long time. I had a dream of becoming a writer, and I've identified with myself as a writer for a long time
Hmm.
until I realized at some point, that's just the yeah, the physical form of something greater, basically. So, and that's why I do what I do now, teaching
No,
people how to use language. Yeah.
no, I love it. And so, outside of, having the love of, the written word and wanting to be a writer, because that's a really important, marketing strategy, and we can get into that whole thing, like probably blowing it up on LinkedIn, and, that's your probably your background and your playground all in one. Um, and so how did the entrepreneur side of things, the international speaking, being
How
on
did it
being on
happen?
being on stage with some pretty well-known people, and and sharing stages with people that are just admired by the world, and and just getting onto that type of a platform.
Right. I pretty much just grew up in a very humble environment, but I've always felt like I mean, I'm from Holland. Now, for those who don't know where Holland is, the Netherlands, it's a very tiny, tiny country in Europe next to Germany.
uh,
And trust me, there are a lot of people, especially in America, who have to look it up to find out where that is. And I've always felt that that
it's
was,
probably been in
uh,
some movies or something like that.
it
They probably
has
just don't
actually.
know that they're seeing it.
Probably. I think it's Pulp Fiction that mentions how we always use mayonnaise with everything. So that the Dutch state, yeah. So it's mentioned in movies definitely. Um, Probably if I mention Amsterdam, that will ring a bell.
Everybody knows Amsterdam.
Okay,
You
well,
know.
okay, Amsterdam. Um, that's our capital city. It's an amazing country, but I've always felt like it was a little bit too small for me. I've done a bilingual education in high school, studied international business communication. So for me, the idea of going international was always, it was somewhere on my radar, basically. But it's not like that all just happened. I mean, I had to work my ass off,
Yeah.
basically, to get, yeah, to get where I am now. And even still, I feel like there's so much more to do and so much more to accomplish. Of course, it's a never-ending
It
story,
is, and
basically.
that's
Yeah,
and I really want you to kind of touch on that a lot
yeah,
because people, especially nowadays, right? It's so common for excuses or somebody waiting for, oh, I can't do this because
of course.
I'm waiting for, and it's like,
Yeah,
stop waiting, just
yeah.
do it.
Start
I don't
doing.
know how to
Yeah,
do it. Neither did everybody else.
yeah.
Figure it out. And so really like talk about like that that portion of it, because it's kind of like where it's like, hey, you had to fight to get to where you're at now. You know, you had to work. It's an uphill battle. There's no such thing as a handout. And the person that was the overnight success, it took them 20 years to be that.
Exactly. Listen, we all have stories that we tell ourselves. We've all been through shit. Just, if I can just use that word like that. Yeah. We've all been through something. I mean, for me, I was 11 when my mom decided to join a cult, just to give you a little bit of background. That was pretty intense. I can tell you it was pretty intense. I was just 11, and, you know, at that age, it's very easy to influence you. So I just went with it, you know, and for years, I believed everything that they told me. I believed their stories. I believed everything that they said about the people in the world being immoral, etc., and not being my real friends. And it took me a couple of years to realize that those were not my beliefs. I was pretty young, actually, at 16, when I realized, you know, this is not how I want to live my life. I want to live my life according to my values. Yeah. But as soon as I voiced that, as soon as I voiced my beliefs and what I wanted, I was basically shunned by that community, by that cult. And my mom was still at that point massively influenced, especially by the pastor. Yeah. So about 8 months after I told my mom, you know, this is not what I want. I'm just not happy in this church. And please, I just want to, I don't want to go anymore. And 8 months after, she kind of kicked me out.
How do you kind of kick somebody? You're kind of kicked out, so.
Yeah. Okay, so I was kicked out of the house.
Sorry, Mom. She's trying to sugarcoat it and kind of like lessen the blow. It's like, my mom kind of kicked me out. It's like, how do you kind of kick somebody out?
Yeah, okay, so it really did happen. Mom knows all about me sharing this story, and she's fine with it because we're cool. You know, we have a very good relationship
has been mended.
Yes,
good, perfect.
Absolutely. But at that point, I felt like I lost all my safety. Everything that I knew was home to me. Mm-hmm. I lost that, and it could have been. Well, actually, I felt like I was walking on a tightrope basically for a long time, trying to hold on to whatever. You get into survival mode at that point, and I was still in high school, or whatever you call it in America. But
high school,
yeah, exactly.
We're not that weird.
Well, I know that there's all this different. Anyway, doesn't matter. So university, I went through it, but kind of kept things safe, you know, because of all the stories I told myself. You know, better not stand out too much. Better not voice your own beliefs too much, because if you do, you will get hurt.
Yeah,
it's a bad thing. You will get hurt. So for a long time, I tried to live a little bit of an average life. I mean, I've always had fun. I was just a typical student. And after that, I got my first job. But really voicing what I believed in, that was a very, very different story, especially, you know, standing out and starting my own business, starting your own business. I was like, yeah, someday when I'm ready, I will do it, but not now, because I am not ready. I don't know enough. I am not good enough yet. I don't have enough experience. I am too young at this point. Whatever kind of excuses I would come up with, I had them.
Yep.
And like we all do so many times. And it was actually until my father got ill. My father was 52 when he heard he had pancreatic cancer, and passed away 7 months after at 53. And for some reason, I know that was it was a hard time, but it was a very beautiful time at the same point, because in those last few months, you get to share those last moments with each other. And they were incredible moments of sadness as well as joy, and just sharing. And I mean, he was high on morphine, so
yeah.
It was actually
well, you got the no filter truth, like the real, like you learned some stuff, I'm sure. But I'm glad that you said it and you worded it the way that you did, because a lot of people, they don't get that. You know, for me, I didn't get that. If I knew my dad was going to die when he was going to die, the 3 months to 6 months, the 24 hours leading up to that would have been completely different. But it was a car accident. He was a police officer. He died in the line of duty. And so it was like the last thing I remember seeing of my dad is me driving up the hill towards our house, him driving down going to work, and it's like, hey, there's Dad, and a wave. And that's the last time I saw him. The next thing I knew, I was coming home later that night from dinner with friends, and there were 7 police cars all blacked out. So the chiefs of police were all at my house, and I pulled into our area, and I told my friends, I was like, my dad's dead. And they're like, how do you know? I was like, those are all, look at all those cars. Those are all the chiefs of police. Yeah. There's only one reason they're going to be at my house at 11 o'clock at night, you know?
Yeah.
And so people don't embrace that. And so you were like, hey, I need to dive into it. And it's a hard time, but the way you worded it, it's so right. It was a beautiful time too.
Yeah.
Because
definitely
your perspective changes, you embrace it. Yeah. And I think that, you know, dive into how that experience really helped, because I think that's like really a solid piece of the foundation of everything else that you were able to do, because you can't fall into the trap of someday anymore.
No, definitely not.
Like that whole option got thrown out the window, because you were thinking, oh, someday I'll do it. And then you go through this with Dad, and now it's like, there's no such thing as someday. It's I'm doing it now, or I'm just not doing it. Yeah,
because I knew at that point I had to somehow make sure that I would remember the stories, the moments that we had. Mm-hmm. I needed to write it down. And for me, at that point, I wanted to be a writer. That is all in the past. But still, you know, for my tool was writing, to process everything that was going on, and also to, you know, to not forget. So I put all these moments, I put it on paper, and people were like, oh my God, you have to do something with this. You know, there's something bigger out there. You are so good with words. You know how to move people. So just get going with it. And I realized they're so right. What the fuck am I waiting for? So as soon as or after he passed, just a few months after, I was like, time is so incredibly short. I mean, this is the one resource we can never get back. And once you've been through something very intense, like losing a family member, as well as, one of my best friends committed suicide just 2 weeks after. I had a shitty year in 2010, basically, which is just life, you know, whatever.
And life completely changed for you in 2010 as well.
Exactly. Life completely changed, and I knew I have to grab life by the balls, as a friend of mine would say it.
Yeah.
So I did. I was like, I've been knocked down completely. It cannot get any worse. The only way is up. Let's just go for it. It's adventure. Life can only get better. I was so excited at that point, that low moment in my life.
Yeah.
I was so excited about what was going to come into my life. And man, that has definitely changed. And those were the first 8 years, or the first 7 years of my entrepreneurship. I was focusing on that, on the written word. And at some point I realized, you know, I got to change something and expand my business. And that's why I'm saying it's not about the written word per se, but it's about the impact that words have in our lives, and on different levels. Because obviously what we were just talking about, the stories we tell ourselves are the stories we put into words mostly.
No, I love it. And it's, how has switching your perspective, right? Because that trap of someday, and now it was that the next 7-8 years probably flew by, because now you're in the process, and people want to avoid process. They you know what I mean? They do. They want the cash out. They want to be, you know, they want to be Insta famous, you know, because everybody's popular on Instagram, and they get a false sense of security, or whatever it is. You know, some people are some people are capitalizing. They're become trendsetter or whatever they're doing. They're turning their Instagram into a business. Power to them, but it's also a process, because I talked to I had a call with Melissa Vell, and she's a realtor, big time realtor in New York. She's making well. She's also, but then she figured out, she's like, wow, I've got like this huge following and like they love like my outfits and stuff like that. And she realized like she was doing it, becoming, you know, an influencer without even becoming. And then she's like, if I take it seriously, like it could happen. But now every trip she goes on, every time she's out to dinner or anything like that, it's a business for her. Whereas like, nope, don't touch the food. Like I need to take the, like, what? That's my job.
Oh God. Yeah.
Like it's my job. I have to take the pictures. Like I have to, like if I'm going on a 5-day vacation, 2.5, 3 days of that vacation is 100% creating content for her influencer business. So people think it's like just a lavish life. It's like, sure, it can be, but if it's their, if that's their job, they're working like any other entrepreneur out there. Don't be confused by what's being posted. You know, you're just meeting their representative. You know what I mean? It's like going into an interview and like that's the person you're actually hiring. No, I'm just meeting your representative. So one of my favorite questions when I would interview people would be, so how much of this is actually real?
Right.
Right at the end, right at the end of the interview, after all of the BS is, you know, after the representative is done talking and presenting who they want me to see. And it's like, okay, how much of this is actually real? Like, how much of this is actually true?
Yeah, exactly.
And 100% of the time, it's like, wait, what? Right? What are you going to do? Like, if you're on the opposite end of that question and you're thinking like, yeah, I just did really good. This guy's buying it.
Yeah.
Wait, what do you mean? It's all true. No, it's not. What? I've been in your chair. I've been interviewed. I absolutely. It's like being on your first date.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. Basically. Yeah.
It's your first date, and then you talk to the same couple a year from now. You've changed. No, I didn't change. I just filtered a lot. Now I just don't filter. And so how is that? Because you learn how to like filter through all of that. You learn how to weed through all of that, and for internally and externally when you're bringing on association, when you're bringing on team members and things of that sort. So how has that whole like removal of the filter, I guess, almost for lack of better words, really helped your business and helped you as a person being an entrepreneur? Because that's a lot. You have authenticity. Yeah. That whole long story was about you have to have authenticity.
Oh, definitely. So for a long time, I was just telling stories about, you know, other people's stories. As I used to have a copywriting business. As a copywriter, you're constantly telling other people's stories, but I wasn't sharing mine. Sure, years ago, I shared my dad's stories, like on very small, like I had my own blog. But other than that, I was hiding. So at some point, there was a lot of things came at play at that point a couple of years ago, where I realized I needed to scale up my business and have a different business model. Just look at my whole business in a different light. Mm-hmm. But what happened specifically is that at some point I was in this big conference room in London, and I was taking part in a 4-day training by Andy Harrington, who is one of the world's best speakers. And he was basically, you know, saying that, you know, who are you not to tell your story? And I was like, shit. I realized. And I realized that, especially if I want to scale up my business, I want to be on stage. I need to show up, well, not literally like naked, but at least vulnerable, and share my story, which is, and oh my God, I went through the whole process of, I was just processing the story and being kicked out of my house, out of the house at 16. I have shed so many tears, but I knew that right now, I know looking back is that I went through that because it's all about, I was trying to find my own path, and I felt like I lost it at that point. But it's so relevant to what branding is when you're setting yourself apart and you're voicing your beliefs, you're doing it, you're living life, and you're building your business your way. That's what I was trying to do at that age as well. So that's why it's so relevant. And what you go through at that point, it is processing the past while setting up a new business and exposing yourself, because it was so safe for me behind my laptop telling everybody else's story, and all of a sudden I had to start becoming a brand myself. Yeah. Not just the business. People want to see me on stage, which means that I needed to show myself and to become visible is something that requires courage and vulnerability. Now, I don't know if you've seen Brene Brown's
I haven't.
documentary. You haven't. I would definitely recommend it. I love Brene Brown, and right now her one of her talks is on Netflix, and she has done so much research on courage and vulnerability. It is amazing, and I really believe in that. And it is a constant battle for me to show myself and to really be open and honest, and because like everybody else, I will be like, is this valuable? I don't want to be the one who's constantly talking about herself and what I've been through and blah blah blah. But then again, people do like it. People can relate to it when you share personal stories. So just a couple of days ago, I shared something so personal. I wasn't even sure if I was ready to share it, but I was like, I feel like I need to do that, which has all to do with the fact that I just got divorced, or actually I'm getting divorced, which is something that is so personal. To share that on social media, that's a constant balance that you're looking for. But then again, it was like, what? This is me. And
It's what I'm dealing with.
This is what I'm dealing with. And you know what? I'm just going to share it because people might find some kind of, relief in it or whatever. So,
no, it's all about creating the bridge, right? When you're trying to build a brand, you're basically building an extension of yourself, but from putting your business hat on, right? If you're trying to be D2C, if you're trying to be direct to your consumer, there has to be a pathway. There has to be a connection. So you need to build that bridge, and it can't be fake, because people are smarter than they pretend to be.
That's it.
They'll filter the BS out. They're gonna see it and be like, yeah, no, these guys just want my money. Or you're like all these companies out, because companies are doing it. They're like, hey, buy this and we're going to donate 10% or $10 to some, charity or some nonprofit. And really, it's like, really? All you did was up the price $10. Yeah. And then now it's a charity. Because now there's a cause behind it. But it's like, no, I can see through it. Like we can filter through it. We can see it. Or there's the actual little small business owner who's, no, like, here, this is what the entire heartbeat of my company is about. Like, it's about helping people get out of hard times and this. Like, all the products that are in here are made by these people so they can make money to get out of a bad situation or whatever it is. And then it's like, okay, now that's a worthy cause.
Yes.
Versus Pepsi saying we donate 5% to whatever. I don't know if what Pepsi does it. Don't take that as set in stone. No. I'm going to get a call from Pepsi tomorrow and be like, hey, dude. See you in court. And we're like, you win. But you know what I mean? Just the importance of authenticity, because the more authentic you are, it's almost the stronger that bridge is to who you're trying to reach.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it gives them more of a platform to stand on in order to relate to you and to connect with you.
Exactly.
Because if there's no connection, you're out of business.
As
a person and as a business. If the customer doesn't have the, the air quote buy-in. And so how do you implement that into, because I know you help people and you help, that's kind of your be a brand rebel, right? And so we're about ready to go down that wonderful, glorious rabbit hole. And you're like, yes, I was waiting for this one.
Exciting.
Finally. What took you so long? That's 24 minutes, Jeff. Just should have started the call. Hey, Michelle Coops, be a brand rebel. Go. So how has that, and I have a feeling like this whole last 24 minutes was really setting up the foundation of that whole be a brand rebel.
Yeah. All right. So where the name comes from is directly linked to my story. So as soon as I left that church, I was just basically named a rebel because, if you're going against the status quo in the community, of course you're a rebel. So I was like, okay, fine, I'm a rebel. I didn't realize until after I chose the name for my business, Be a Brand Rebel, that there was a link. Anyway. For me,
the clouds parted, like a light showed down. I was like, oh. God's up there like, hello. What took you so long?
Ahead of me. Yeah, exactly. So for me, it's not necessarily the being a rebel is not about being stubborn or going against everything, but it's about finding your own path. So for me, it means autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from authenticity, it is about doing things your way. Because the thing is, especially, I mean, look at the big brands. I'm talking about big businesses. I think that a lot of them show a relatively, well, I don't know. There's a few that definitely stand out, but there's so much corporate feel to everything.
Yeah.
And when small business owners start their business, especially when they don't really have an idea of what they're really doing, so they're just starting their business, they go for that corporate feel. Yep. Because that's what the big boys do, and we've been
the big
taught.
boys are about to lose, big time.
And that's basically what we've been taught in school, university, whatever. We've been taught that we have to be professional, we have to show up in a certain way. And I'm like, you know what? If everybody's doing the same thing, then where is the heart of the business? And with the heart of the business is where is your personality? So I believe that there's a difference between, and I do both. There is the identity, which is about who you are, your beliefs, your values, et cetera, but there's also the question of how you are. So how do you show up for people? So that would be the expression of your identity, basically. So what you show on the outside, that could be even your clothing. It could be just the kind of energy that you put out, and that is something that we can play with. And I really believe that by showing a lot more personality, instead of just playing it safe the whole time, we can make so much more impact. And there are so many people that I'm like, where's the personality in this? Yeah. I mean, things just fall, they flatline. I mean, come on.
You need like that machine, right? The one that like pump, like that if somebody's like knocked out or something, like you electrocute him and bring him back to life. Like I need to like get some juices flowing or something. But I mean, like think about it, like just from that standpoint, and I love what you said that the small businesses and the like the sole proprietors and all of that stuff, they actually, especially with social media, they have so much power to disrupt the big businesses. And that's why I said the big businesses are about to lose big time, because they built too big of a machine. They can't afford to take any of the chances that all the small businesses can do. So that's why you're seeing Bang Energy and all of these other things, because they see the trends of social media where it's like, hey, all these people are influencers and they have their brand of being themselves, living their lives, and they've got tens, hundreds, thousands, millions of followers, whatever it is, and their engagement, because it's not just about attention, it's about engagement, and so why don't I just insert my energy drink into their engagement? How do you want us to advertise it? Just do what you do. Just stick the energy drink in whatever you're doing. You know what I mean? It's like because you can't be the corporate guy where it's like, do this my way. It's like, well, then now they lost their identity, because now you're trying to be like everybody else and all those big guys. So that's why they're going to lose. It's because they have to do it a certain way. Yeah. Granted, they're also the only guys that can afford Super Bowl commercials. But outside of Super Bowl commercials, I don't think TV's worth it. So it's all about social media. And you've really figured out how to capitalize on that. And so how is, not necessarily being the brand rebel, but being authentic to yourself? How important is that in building a person's individual brand? Because I think everybody's branding themselves, whether they believe it or not.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Whether you're doing that consciously or not, you're branding yourself.
Yep.
Because for the very reason that people have an opinion of you. So the more aware you become of that, and the more conscious you are about what you're putting out there, the more you can influence people's opinion. But then again, I mean, I'm more talking about your reputation, because people will always have an opinion, and you don't necessarily want to be dealing with that the whole time. Let them have an opinion. That's fine. In fact, you want people to actually hate you or love you. Yeah. Anything in between is just too average. So polarize by all means. But there is a thing about authenticity, and I believe me, I'm a firm believer of authenticity. But I also believe that a lot of people have a little bit of a misconception in that around that topic. It's like, yeah, you just have to be yourself. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that you've heard that phrase. But I believe that, well, first of all, the word just should be just, banished from that sentence.
Be yourself.
Because be yourself and then some.
Yeah.
That's what I always say. Because there's nothing just about you, first and foremost. And apart from that, I believe that we can definitely choose. So if we, as a brand, you have a specific target audience, there are people out there that need you and you desperately want to help them because you have something of value. Mm-hmm. Then obviously you can choose to say, today I don't feel very well. So yeah, I'm just going to show up in my, whatever. I'm just going to have low energy and just be complaining the whole time because, well, that's being me right now. But there is no added value to it for the customers. Yeah. Does that give them the experience that you definitely want them to have? Does that empower them? Does that inspire them? And usually that is no. So be authentic, yes, but also decide on what is it that you want to bring people? How do you want to be seen? How do you want people to talk about you? You don't want to be a whiner. So leave the whining for your friends. Leave the whining for, call your mom. And just, fine, just cry for half an hour. That's fine. But apart from that, be aware of what you're sending out, all the energy that you're sending out. It's all frequencies. And for me, yes, I'm authentic, but I also want everything that I send out to have a positive impact. I'm not talking about pretending. I'm not talking about, just being fake at all. But whatever lessons you've learned, whatever you come across, and even if you feel a little bit insecure at some point, feel free to share because people can relate to it, but also share what you do about it. So what can you share that inspires other people to learn from you? And that is the difference between, just sharing authentically how you feel, that realness, fine, but also turn it into something positive. That's what I believe, at least.
No, I'm 100% with you because I love the way that you phrase it too. You have to be self-aware, you have to be authentic, but if you're just a lazy, bum, are you really happy? Like that's where I kind of draw the line. It's like, okay, you can be authentic. Sure, that's who you're pretending to be right now, but why are you so miserable? Because your body's trying to tell you that, or your brain's trying to tell you, your subconscious is trying to tell you, you're not happy. That's why you're miserable. So this isn't really who you're supposed to be. So figure out who you're supposed to be, then start being that person. You might not be that person right now, but it's kind of like the person that you want to be in 10 years. What would they do?
Yes.
Then do that.
Exactly. And do that because you can choose that.
Yeah, and then now you're going to start. Then you're going to start rewiring yourself. You're going to rewire the way that you think and everything around you. You might not see it in your reality yet, but it'll start forming the more you just change the way that you think. And right when you kind of touched on it, and it's like, you at some point you care what people think. But you have to also be self-aware enough to not care what anybody thinks. It's like, I care what you think about me, but at the same time, I don't care what you think.
Yeah.
And if you understand what I'm saying, it makes perfect sense. For everybody that doesn't, figure out who you are.
I mean, sure, we care about what people think, but the trick is to just care about what people think who matter. The people who matter to you. Other than that, I love that phrase. I can't come up with her name right now. I think Melody, whatever. What other people think of you is none of your business. Yeah. Right? That is something
that's
really
their problem.
Yeah, it's their problem.
Yeah, it's like, I hate Jeff. Good, your life must suck.
fabulous.
Thank
If you
you.
have so much time left in your daily life
To
to
hate
just
somebody,
be,
yeah.
yeah,
It's like, oh, you must be
I
killing
pity
it.
you. Yeah,
It's either you're making it really, really good, or your life is that bad. Because
right.
I don't know anybody that has that much time. It's like, well, I don't have time to pay that much attention to you to hate you.
No,
If you're
no.
doing great, good, hey, power, good job, keep going.
Yeah. You know what? And all those haters, the thing is, hate is a very powerful emotion to hold dear for someone that you don't even like. So all those haters,
Yep.
I mean, they're wow.
But it's also a parasite.
Oh yeah.
It kills the host. So
Yeah.
if you're listening and you know a hater or you're a hater yourself and you just don't want to admit it, FYI, the only person you're hurting is yourself.
Is yourself.
You know.
Yeah.
And so kind of just to bring it back around kind of to where you started off, how did this, the cult and all of that stuff, because that at such a young age, you really had to figure some of this stuff out. You didn't figure this out because this is stuff you just learn over time,
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
you knew the direction you had to head, and it was
Yeah.
this something's wrong here with what you guys are saying, so I need to peace out.
Yeah.
And
Peace out.
Mom,
Definitely.
you can kind of kick me out, and I'll kind of leave, and then. But that's a tough situation to be in at such a young age, because this is your safe place. This is your safe person. I'm supposed to be open and tell Mom everything and anything, but when the direction that I'm receiving from the person I'm supposed to trust the most is completely out of left field in a different stadium, I, as a teenager, what's going through your head?
Yeah.
Because even as an adult, people have a hard time doing that type of
Oh yeah.
stuff. So as a teenager, like, you haven't even started life yet,
Yeah.
and you're making life decisions, And so what happened during that process? What was going through your head? The emotional roller coaster, because there was one. And then on the second part is, how has that, grit and experience that you learned, because you toughened up, you developed some tough skin through that. How did that help you just through life and dealing with everything else, being an entrepreneur and all of that fun stuff?
Yeah. Well, looking back, I've always just been someone who was finding her own way. I don't know if that's something that is when you're the oldest in the house, out of 4 kids. I mean, my dad had 2 other kids with his wife after. So I kind of had to be the first one to go through the whole process.
The pioneer.
The pioneer. And you know what? It's been over 20 years, this whole. So I can't really, when I'm thinking back to it, I'm like, I was 16. What the fuck? But I just remember, what I remember is that I had an amazing group of friends at school. We were in a class with 12 kids, 12 only, which meant that we were very connected with all of us. We were traveling a lot because we were one of the first classes in my country that received bilingual education, which meant that half of our subjects were in English. And that was a very new thing at the time. So we were pioneering as a group, basically.
Nice.
And, that independence that we got at the same time with the connection that we had as a group, they inspired me. They were my friends, and I saw how independent they were in their thinking. And I remember that at some point we started, I don't know what kind of class that was. It was about, social studies or something. And if there's one thing that you learn during social studies, it's about values and society and how opinions form and how culture is being established through beliefs, and how that all has to do with your own frame of reference and such. And that's when I realized, So what's my frame of reference at this point? And that was all based around that cult. I realized, but is that the frame of reference that I want to keep in my life? Is this really, do I really see myself going to this cult, following somebody else's beliefs for the rest of my life, 3 times of going to church a week, and then there's all the other activities. I was like, this is a day job almost, just, I was like, but I want so much more in life. I want to experience so much more. So I just couldn't see, when you create a vision for your life, at that point, I couldn't see myself doing that for the rest of my life. I just didn't see it. And because I didn't see it, I saw so many other things, but not that. And that's when I just knew, I have to take responsibility for this because, you know what, this is my life and I better just live it.
Yeah.
And
how much did the traveling influence that? Because I think that's one of the best ways to learn is traveling. And so I look forward to traveling more. But just from what I hear from people that do spend a lot of their time traveling the world and experiencing different cultures. So you at a young age, you guys were traveling. Did that play into this kind of like this eye-opening, like there's just so much more out there outside of what I'm being told because you've personally experienced it and or seen it,
Yeah. I wasn't I wasn't consciously thinking about the whole traveling thing because the traveling for us in school was England, which is just neighboring country.
Okay.
Spain, which is, well, there's definitely some cultural differences there. And we went to Poland. And I have to say that the Poland experience definitely influenced me big time because we went to Auschwitz. Now that's very, very intense. But that was after I decided to leave that cult. So It was basically the main influence were my friends because I felt that they were so amazing people. They were loving, they were kind, they were genuine, and they were not in that church. Whereas in church, the pastor and everybody else said that these were bad people. Yeah. And I was like, that can't be right. They're people that are so loving, and so what if they don't live life according to your rules? It's not up to you to judge. Yeah. So I think that was the biggest influence. But later in my life, because I have definitely traveled a lot.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
I think like within like 3 emails at some point, you were like in 3 different, I'm going to be in this country and then I'll be in that country, but don't worry, we can book it. Well, let me check the time zone for the country I'm going to be in when we're doing the call. And then and I'm just like, who are you? You're like the female James Bond of branding or something like that. And you're just in a different country and a different business. But like, who am I talking to? I'm meeting with Tony Robbins. Don't worry, no big thing. I'll get back to you though. And I'm just like, wait, what?
Yeah, no.
There you go. There's your next one. The James Bond of branding.
James Bond of branding.
Different country, different car, different person I'm talking to. Association's always changing.
Yeah, James Bond of branding, what's the female version for James? Well, Janet.
There was E, right? Wasn't E like that? But she was more just the office boss
exactly.
person. So she's not the James Bond.
Nah, exactly.
I don't know how we went down this, but we did. It made sense to us. We're like, yeah, this makes sense because we know what we're talking about. and so
I have to say that this year has been a crazy year because last year as well. Actually, the last few years have been insane when it comes to traveling. I mean, it's May already, actually. 5th month, but I've been to 3 continents so far, which is not something I usually do. But I'm at some point you get a bit sick of traveling.
Well, yeah, I mean it's what they say, right? Too much of a good thing is still a bad thing. Like you can put a little bit of salt on your food and it makes it taste a whole lot better. You empty the whole container of salt.
Oh God,
you're not eating it.
No, exactly.
And
Yeah.
so it's all about moderation and balance. But balance is a tricky thing because that comes down to being self-aware on what
Yes.
works for you. Because some
Yeah,
people
exactly.
are perfectly fine hitting the road 5 days a week, working 90-hour weeks, and building their business. And some people are like, no, I need my me time, every
Yeah.
night so I can watch Lost or whatever show, Game of Thrones. There you
CSI.
go. Yeah. CSI or whatever. I don't know what's gonna happen. It's like, okay, well, don't here. That's the thing though, is don't complain that you're not where you're at.
No, exactly. It's
If
hard work.
that's what you're choosing. If you're
Yeah.
choosing like you only want to be in the 40, 50 hours, don't complain you're not achieving what you want to achieve
Yeah.
because if the work ethic doesn't match up to the goal,
Oh yeah,
you
definitely.
know.
And at the same time, I also believe that, oh my God, yeah, you definitely have to work hard. But the ideal for me is to experience the life that I want while I'm building towards it.
No, it
You
makes
know,
perfect
so
sense.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, because you
exactly.
experience things along the way.
Yeah.
The you 10 years from now, 5 years from now, is gonna look back on where you're at right now and be like, "Oh, that was a fun time,"
Yeah, exactly.
and it's gonna be like, "That was cute. That was cute. Like, you were, it was on our way there." And then for me too, it'd be like, "Hey, Jeff, yeah, you got that little podcast thing going. Yeah, cool."
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the me 10 years from now is gonna look back on this and be like, "Yeah, remember that time you were on the phone with that Michelle person, that rebel?"
That rebel.
Yeah, like the James Bond girl. Oh, we're
The
just
Bond
gonna like
girl.
hashtag James Bond of
The
branding or
funny
something.
thing
Or
is, I do only drink martini
shaken,
like
not
James
stirred.
Bond. But I don't drink it. Yeah, I drink it on the rocks.
Okay.
So not shaken, not stirred, or
Yeah,
whatever. But
whatever. Well, that's
there
what
is a
makes you
link.
you. That's what makes you
Yeah.
you, right? It's like, well, I'm being me. James
Yeah.
Bond can't touch me. I don't know why we're stuck on James Bond now. But
Remember that and tag you.
oh, we absolutely are. And so really kind of dive into just what your business is about, what really you do, where people
Yeah.
can find you. I want to make sure you have a few minutes to do that
Okay.
and share because I'm sure people are
Yeah.
going to be like, who the heck is this James Bond girl chick?
Yeah. All right. So what I do is I take people back to the drawing table, especially entrepreneurs who have been working on their brand for, well, maybe just a couple of years on their business, but they've never really consciously worked on their brand. And I believe that you need to go back to the drawing table and really consciously take time to think about, who are we right now in the business and who do we want to be? So that is all about the identity. And it's not only about who you think you are right now, but who you can be and who you want to be. So you choose that. Then we move on to the personality. Personality is one of the things that I'm really, really fond of in doing that and guiding people with
No.
that. Oh, no, you had no idea. What an epiphany. And all of that eventually leads to the message, because once you know who you are, how you want to show up, then you can craft the message in such a way that it really compels people. And that message is such a crucial element of your brand. In fact, it is the brand. A brand is not just the visual representation through a logo. That's what a lot of people think, and it's the website, blah, blah, blah. Bullshit. It is a lot more about the beliefs, about the experience that you're giving, about the message that you have, because that's what lasts. And that's what I help people with. And that's why I combine my passion for language and stories and the message, basically. I combine that with the whole branding bit of the identity, the personality. So what I do is I have a program. And I help people through that step by step, like very detailed, so that they understand it, because it's not easy to get the answers to, craft your own identity and the personality. But that's why I've kind of broken it down into easy steps. And that's what I do. So in Holland, I do that with people live in a training setting. And right now, I am working on the latest version of my online program. And I have a few online products as well that I happily help people with so that they can actually share their message authentically with more personality in it. Yeah.
Don't be like all the big boxes. Be
No, exactly.
yourself. You know,
Yes.
what they're
And that's
doing worked for them in a different era. People need to understand, like, we're about ready to go through a big paradigm shift.
yes.
It's the technology boom that's coming, and
Yes.
we haven't even touched it yet.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
exactly.
you know, what is that movie? Not Transformers. With all the
Matrix.
robots.
Matrix?
No.
That's a different. Yeah, that's also epic.
Matrix 2.
Yeah.
And without no, oh my gosh, it was Arnold Schwarzenegger, and
Oh my
oh my
God.
god, I'm brain farting right now, and it's so irritating. Not
Uh,
RoboCop. It's like when
no.
all the robots come back and try to kill everybody.
Oh God.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Isn't it? You're not talking about that one that's got more
Yeah,
sequence.
there's like 8 of
Yeah,
them.
Terminator.
Terminator. Oh my gosh. I was seriously,
Wow.
I was like
Wow.
seriously about ready to Google it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so irritating. Terminator's coming. It's real. That's why. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I was like, the movie, and I was like, crap, I forgot the name of the damn movie.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, but
Terminator.
that's where it's going. Like, you know, like with AI and VR and all that stuff,
Oh, definitely. And
it's
mixed reality
yeah,
even, which is
like
a step
like
further.
instead of it being a Skype video, it's just gonna be we're gonna put in like a contact lens and do the
Yeah.
same thing,
Yeah.
but it's gonna
Yeah.
feel like I'm right in front of you. I'm like, no, you're right
Yeah.
here. You
I
know,
can touch you.
yeah, it's like you're right here. I swear. But so I know you're on social. Where can people find you and get your content and your information? And you know, find
Yeah.
you easier.
Right. Okay. So my website is beabrandrebel.com. And it's translated in English as well. After all, I am Dutch, but I've I've translated it for my international audience. And there's some free stuff available actually. So I would definitely go and download my ebook, which is all about how you can make your point. So the ebook is named "What's Your Point, Dude?" And the point is actually a 5-step process that I take you through, and there's a mini video course there, and that way I can keep you updated on what I do. I will share content in your mailbox every week. I promise not to stalk, but I will share a lot of value, and and basically anything that I have. Also what I sell, and I'm going to sell any product that people are interested in, sure. But I would just say, just get to know me first. Download the ebook, follow me on Instagram, and I'd be happy to facilitate whatever works there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you want them to be at the Be a Brand Rebel Instagram page or the Michelle Coops Instagram?
No, the Michelle Coops. I share a lot more there.
On the
because
Michelle
that's
Coops.
about-
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Because,
Michelle Coops is MichellelleCoops.
yes.
Michelle Coops. You'll see her. She's wearing a nice fancy red jacket. I pulled up
Yeah.
the page, and
Correct.
there's a lot of red, and you'll know you're on it when you get to it. We'll
Yeah,
leave it at that, because you're going to be like, yep, this is her. Totally
Her.
matches. That's what I was like. Once we first started talking and emailing things, I was like, yep, all matches. It's all the same. But that's when I love it. When like the person that you see is the person that you get. That's when you know it clicks, and it's just like, yes, this is gonna be fun. Because this took about what 3-4 weeks to lock down for us. So we've been looking to this call for a while, and it was all the bit of fun that I knew it would be.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was not worried about that. From
Yeah, I
the
was
start.
like,
knew this
I
was gonna work.
was kind of curious. I'm like, I wonder how many rabbit holes we're gonna go down, because we're just gonna talk and just be like, ooh, squirrel, bang, and just go down like into a rabbit hole because
Definitely, yes.
somebody said a word. Like James Bond, right? Exactly, we did it.
Yeah.
James Bond girl. We're gonna figure it out. James Bond and branding. Michelle Coops.
Terminator.
Yep, that whole debacle that happened in my brain. Oh man, that was so bad. I'm probably gonna catch a lot of crap about that. Dude, you don't remember Terminator? I don't watch TV because I'm building a business. What? Ooh, Trump that. But no, thank you for coming on. I look forward to having you again. Everybody,
Oh, lovely.
make sure you find her, get some information, learn, but ultimately that's what we're here to do, is just help people make their lives better and, learn from stories. So thank you for
Exactly.
your time. I truly
Well,
appreciate
thank
it,
you
and
for
I look
having me,
forward
Jeff.
to it. Look forward to the next one.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye bye.